What's up, everybody? Good morning. How's it going? Um, Dan's helping me work out a YouTube kink that I've had forever. I don't know what's going on with my YouTube live, but we are live, and I apologize for last Tuesday. I really, really, really am sorry. I was trying to figure out getting live on YouTube, and my ID had some sort of an issue. But I am here today, and it seems like a pretty darn red day. Lots of interesting gaps, lots of interesting tickers. Let's give everybody a minute to join and we will get this party started. So give me a second, just pulling up the link. Okay, cool deal. All right. Um, Who here is excited for bear trades today? I know for one, I am really, really excited. Believe it or not, I had a put yesterday on options. So if you didn't know, you can trade options on futures also. And so I had a put yesterday at closing time, knowing that it is a very extended market. We ended up as a red doji. We could pull back at least to the 10 EMA. And then I kind of chickened out because CPI was coming up. So I closed it out right before closing for a gain of $200. And it is currently sitting at a solid probably 3,500 right now. So definitely some FOMO here. I hate where we are opening though. I wish we would open. So it is a retest gap on NQ. You can't see it, but let's look at the Qs. So QQQ, it is a retest gap. It is at all-time highs. So it is kind of concerning. So I want you to think of, if you're not more of a bear trader, it's just my brain works differently. But if you are not function to trade bearish, you don't understand this. I want you to imagine just us at all-time lows and some good news comes out and we're gapping up. What do you think is going to happen to all the bears? Or what do you think is going to happen to all the people that want to get in a position? They're just waiting for some good news. This is what happens. You gap up, right? From the bottom. On the top right now, that's exactly what's happening. We had some bad news and everybody is getting out. We're essentially erasing 3 days, well, actually, technically 4 days of buying currently. So it is a little bit of a devastating gap. With that being said, we do have room to come down to here. This is our trend line that we drew. Let's just extend it a little bit. Actually, are we at that trend line right now? Somewhat at that trend line. This is not very accurate, of course. It's just an assumption. It is a retest gap, so be very, very careful going short right at open. I think what's going to happen is, if I'm right, we might get a little bit of buying, not massive buying, because I'll show you why. I do have a reason why. But we might get a little bit of buying and then continue on down. So kind of like this day, where we had a little bit of buyers come in and then we just continue down. So I think that's what's going to happen today. I don't think we're going to have, a big momentum to the upside. I would be really surprised if we went and filled that gap and then continued higher into the body of this candle. So again, it's a retest gap, so we might fill this gap and then roll over. But if I were to guess, I think we're going to fill it a little bit and then roll over. So maybe up to the 10 EMA, maybe up to like 430 is a good idea, and then roll over. So that's what I have in mind currently. SPY, same exact thing. SPY is a little bit more of a devastating gap, I would say. We fill this gap. Let's see where SPY goes. I think at open, if it bounces, I would love to short SPY a little bit higher. So yeah, I like both SPY and Q. Paul says, about time. I know, about time. It's exciting, isn't it? Bear days, obviously, well, naturally are just my favorite days because that's the direction I'm most comfortable trading in. So, I'm always looking forward to those days. Although yesterday I was kind of mad because we had a perfect setup and it just didn't give you an entry yesterday, just went crazy. It was this, yeah, right over here. So just when everybody thought we are going to go higher, it gave us this double top. And then I said, okay, well, because of this double top, so if you look at this on a 3-minute chart, guys, there was no buying at all for solid 30 minutes. It was just sell off. That's it. No green candles whatsoever. So there was no chance to get in. It just gave me this double top and then nowhere else to go after. I mean, you couldn't possibly have entered the trade here. I wanted to enter it a little bit higher, so somewhere over here, and it just didn't give me that chance. So I don't think today is going to be that way. I think today is going to be a little bit, you see right now, right at open, it's kind of wrong to go in short, right? It just doesn't feel right. I think this is where I want to go short and then continue down. Although it is a pretty bearish day, I just don't want to go short right at open. So if at open, we just flush down a little bit, I think I would much rather look for a reversal and then continuation down. So that's what I'm going to plan on doing. RSI, super low. So just be cautious about shorting something right at open. All right. Okay. Let's move on to some of the gaps. PLTR has an interesting gap and go currently. I am looking forward to this guy pulling back. This absolutely has to be my favorite gap so far because it's a pretty sweet little gap and go. And we've got room to go down quite a bit. Plus, it's got a lot of pulls in here from the last couple of days. So we might pull back. Let's wait for some sort of buyers to come in and then short right it open. Miguel says, what about Amazon? Near support of last massive gap. Could we see some gap fill or will support hold? Let's look at Amazonian. So honestly, Miguel, I think this gap someday will fill. And the way we're gapping down today, I feel like we might be able to fill this gap today. I don't think we're coming down to 161. I think we will have some sort of buyers come in at this support area. So 167, 63, 60 area right here. I could see some buyers stepping in right at open going, well, it's still a steal, it's whatever. And then getting out around 170 and us rolling down a little bit lower. Today, I feel like we could easily get to the 20 EMA. So just because the kind of day it is, the broader markets are going to drag this thing down. So even if Amazon's very strong on its own, I think the broader markets are just going to drag its thing down a little bit. Plus, it is pretty much extended, right? So we do need that pullback. Where we're sitting today, I think we've got a great chance that we can come down to 163-ish. So yeah, that's how I would look. I think support at open and then short that support. So let's say at open, we get like a 3-minute candle. That's a big 3-minute candle like this, possibly short below here. And I think that's the best way to play this guy. Again, it's a retest gap, so this gap might fill. And then we might have to wait till all the way here before it rolls over. But definitely bearish is the direction I'm leaning more towards on all of these things. Now, remember, the broader markets are massively controlled by the Magnificent Seven, right? And granted, Tesla isn't really a part of it lately, but look at NVIDIA. It is at all-time highs, right? So if you are in NVIDIA, I don't know, from whatever, even here for that matter, if you're in NVIDIA from this day at open, you're going to freak out a little bit. You're going to be worried about it a little bit because, you just opened your portfolio and you're down 22 points. If you were a buyer yesterday of NVIDIA, I mean, good luck. I don't know what's happening today to you, but you're going to be a little bit shocked and you are going to get out of some positions. Profit taking is going to happen at open. So there's NVIDIA. There is Microsoft had a pretty devastating gap also. So here's Microsoft. And, you know, all reversals, in my opinion, honestly, come with a bearish engulfing candle. I truly, if you've been in any of my mentorships or if you've worked with me for any amount of time, you know that I look for bearish engulfing candles, and those are the best reversing candles. So yeah, this is pretty devastating. I mean, we're erasing 3 days of buying, just like the Qs, you know, it's everybody that's gonna wake up today and go, oh my God, I'm down 10 points. We're gonna get out. If you're a tad bit profitable in anything, you're gonna get out today. Well, not entirely, not your entire portfolio, but you know, you take some profit, you'll lock in some gains. So it is gonna be a little bit of a tricky day today. We might actually just get some sell-off right at open, just unexplained sell-off, and then recover the rest of the day to fill that gap. That is also a possibility. So if we have a big sell-off right at open, I feel like a reversal is what I would be looking for from then on. So yeah, but depending on, you know, just which way the markets want to go right at open, I think. Airbnb, they have earnings tonight, right? Sympathy play with MAR. Let's check out Airbnb. No, they don't. Oh, they do have earnings tonight, yeah. Okay, cool. Ooh, this is a pretty devastating gap also for Airbnb. This might be my favorite gap and go today, other than PLTR. I will add it to the list. The best way to play gap and goes, honestly, is on a 1-minute chart. So, and write it open. You just want to get in on the 1-minute chart, quicken it out, and then look for a better setup throughout the day. But at least lock in, you know, your 1-minute chart gains. I think I really like that kind of play a lot more. So definitely on my list. We will be watching Airbnb. I think I'm looking for that pullback. So we'll see. Coin has a gap and go also. Let's go look at coin. I was looking at crypto earlier, so did not look at coin. I was looking at Mara though. Let me get rid of these things. Sorry, guys. And again, my YouTube land, if you guys have any tickers that you want to look at, definitely let me know. Everything pretty much is gapping down today, right? So coin has a great capacity to fill this gap. And it's a solid 5-point move, guys. It's not little bits. Yeah, we'll just have to watch this thing. I think bearish is the way to go. So again, if the markets don't want to bounce like right now, I mean, we're opening with a 2% gap. So I would think at open we flush because all of these things are looking kind of gory right now. And, you know, at open we flush, and then maybe the rest of the day we build back up, or we just slow melt down. We'll see. AMAT and DHI. Those are new. Let's look at those. Oh. And this is nasty. Oh man. So for those of you that are like, why is she saying that? Here's a good explanation. Imagine if you were a buyer of AMAT on this day, and you're like, it's going to 200 and that's when I'm selling. And then today you're either losing a little bit or you're up very little. I mean, you'd have to be a buyer down here, precisely below, right? To be up a little bit. What are you going to do today at open? Like, how does that affect your psychology? And I'm only talking about buyers from the last 2 or 3 days. That's what gets the momentum going, and then more bears will jump in. So I'm not talking about this guy or this guy or this guy. I'm just talking about this guy. That's it. Just from that day or this day. It is a devastating gap, right? So I really like this gap down. Also, lots of tickers today. So we got to pick our favorite that have the best gap and goes. So far, I like Airbnb. I like AMAT a lot, and coin. but I like AMAT the most. So I'm going to move it up. I'll move Airbnb a little bit up. PLTR is a news related ticker, so I don't really want to count too much on it. Again, it's all about how many times have we been in a trade that looks exactly the same on both sides, you know, so there's one ticker, let's say Microsoft and Meta, and they both look exactly the same on chart wise, but then, you know, we get into a trade on Microsoft and Meta is the one that we should have gotten into. So it's really just about picking your favorite, picking the right ticker, knowing how it moves. AMAT seems like it's moving quite a bit on a daily basis. So it does pretty much have big candles. I feel like momentum definitely is there on this guy. All right, DHI. There's so many, you guys are throwing out so many tickers. This is awesome. Oh man, this is good too. Although I feel like this might be one of those bear flag thingies where it might start to bounce at this location. Let's come back to DHI. This is good, but let's come back to DHI. Let's look at some other tickers and then I'll circle back to this in a minute. This is a pretty big gap down, 7 points. I don't know what the deal is. Let's look at MU real quick. Yes. Yes. This looks good. I love the hammer. Let me see something real quick here. Are we below that? Yes. Okay. If you haven't seen Jeremy's video, it is on RLT's YouTube channel. Please go watch that video. I think it's got like 30,000 views. But it definitely is the one that he talks about where he talks about volume, just trading volume. And a gap below this hammer is not good. So this guy also, I think, just write it open, one green candle on a 1 minute chart, and we go bearish. Write it open. I don't want to be patient. The worst case scenario is that we go short something like MU and then the markets flip and they want to go fill that gap. But I think that may not be the case. I think it's just a devastating gap for so many other tickers that we might just get that flush at open. So let's look at MU. MU is also on my list for bear trades. In case you're wondering where to get in, I just, again, 1 minute candle, go short below that. Green candle, not red. Green candle, go short below that. All right. MU is at a little bit of support, but this trend line's broken. Yeah, looks good. Let's look at the weekly. Just make sure any ticker you're shorting, you're not sitting at the weekly moving averages because that might act as a good level of support also. Let's look at Apple real quick. I want to show you guys this on Apple. This is a doji inside candle on Apple on a weekly chart. If this plays out right to the bear side, which it looks like it is because we're gapping below that candle from last week. If this thing plays out right, this might turn into a double top. And we might have some trouble in paradise. So just keep an eye out on Apple. Pretty bearish gap, same exact thing. We do have some moving averages coming in soonish. So there is this moving average and we're gapping. I think it's 100. Yeah, 100-day SMA coming in. So just be careful shorting this guy. Again, shorting Apple is never a good idea. But if you're on the mood, there you go. Okay. Tessie is another one of those devastating gaps also. Add a lot of support, I want to say. But not to say we can't go any lower. We certainly can. So I would say retest gap, wait for some buying to come in, and then look for that rollover. So Tesla, Apple, I feel like maybe Netflix and AMD also might be a good midday kind of ticker. Not necessarily right at open kind of play. Right at open, we're looking at AMAT, Airbnb, PLTR, Coin, and MU. All right, cool. Let me go circle onto YouTube. Apple, Microsoft, let's see. Real virtual demand says, what will the Cupid bring us? Hopefully a lot of red so we can go short a lot of things. Let's go look at JBLU. It's gapping down at least 10%. Okay. JetBlue, yeah. Oh, it's gapping up. Yes, because of some guy buying 10% position in it, right? That's what's going on. Definitely a good gap up. This is a tricky one, honestly, to say which way it's going to go, to guess which way it's going to go, because it's in an uptrend on a very bearish day. It's kind of tricky. So, the most obvious thing to do would be to short this thing, right? To fade it back down. But then because this is news driven and there's good news about it and blah, 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 whatever. I think some people might think of that dip as a buyable opportunity. So it's hard to short this thing, even on the most bearish day, it's gapping up 10%. And it's hard to go long this thing after it's gapping up this much because the markets are going to pull it down a little bit. So I would say if you really, really, really had to trade this thing, there are other tickers, by the way, that I like a little bit better than JBLU. But if you were in this thing long term, or if you had to trade this, I would wait for a day trade. I would wait for a little bit of a dip and then look for reversal signs. So for example, maybe around 650, and then see if buyers are stepping in. Follow through with hammers. That's what I want to see. So big hammer candle and a follow through after that. I think that's how I would play JBLU. All right. PayPal and TLT. Let's look at all of those things. PayPal's got a gap and go also. This might get interesting also on PayPal. Short it open. I don't know what else to say on PayPal too. Same exact thing. It is a pretty nasty gap and go. Essentially, this is a 10 EMA setup that should fill for a swing trade also. So, looks great. I think short right at open should work. I will add PayPal to the list and move it up. I looked at other tickers like SoftBank looks really, this is an OTC ticker. So just be cautious. It does have a little bit of a volume currently, but look at this volume. How could you not want to short this right now? It's a gap and go, right? This is a pretty big gap and go after a massive volume. So definitely keeping an eye out for this guy also. It's pretty good gap. I really, really like this. The problem with this gap is I don't know how this ticker trades. Yes, we've seen 3 big candles, but I don't know what the other, I don't know how volatile this is. Keeping an eye out for this guy. BA is a cute gap down too. So just pick your favorites. A lot of these things are just beautiful gap downs. And we're kind of extended, so it makes sense for us to gap down today. BA, definitely good gap and go. If you don't know what a gap and go is, it's when you gap down on a green candle. So if yesterday was a green candle and you open with a gap down, this is a pretty nasty gap down. Best gap and go is when you have a shaved top candle, where the top looks like this. Shaved top candle, no wick, nothing. And then you open with a gap down. It just means there's a lot of buyers trapped. Find your shaved top candle and short that. So let's see if Airbnb is Airbnb. No, it's got a little bit of wick. PLTR, almost a shaved top. Not really, it's got a wick, but yeah. But SoftBank does look like a shaved top a little bit, right? Little bit of a wick, but lots of buyers coming in. So that's a good kind of gap down. All right. We looked at PayPal. We looked at NVIDIA. NVIDIA also is pretty cute for continuation down to 681. Lots of range. I mean, it looks like it's not much of a gap down, but it is a pretty good gap down. Although this thing's pretty strong, so I would much rather short AMD. AMD looks like a better gap down than NVIDIA, honestly. So yeah, AMD's got this beautiful little pennant pattern that we're gapping down below. So that might be devastating for a lot of people here, a lot of buyers here, I think. And we might just do something like this. We might just do like a little bit of a touch up and then roll over on AMD. I like AMD down a little bit. I like AMD a little bit better than NVIDIA for sure. All right. Is there any ticker that I have not looked at? YouTube land. Let's see. We looked at AMD, Square, and Tesla, but I will go over Tesla again. Again, Tesla, not a appealing gap, honestly. Like, I feel like there's so many other better gaps. Like AMD is a better gap than to short Tesla. So definitely not that big of a gap that, I mean, it's down 5 points, and yes, it's weak. So yes, it could come down all the way to 177, 175. It could drop right at open. It's weak. I get it. But I feel like there's much more better plays for day trading than Tesla. We looked at, let's look at Square real quick for YouTube. Mongo database and Fastly. Okay, we'll look at those two. Square, same exact thing as PayPal, short right at open, 1 minute green candle, short below that. I like this gap down also, just like AMD. It's got this pennant pattern going and we're gapping down below. So definitely shortable in my books. Let's look at, what else did you guys say? Fastly and Mongo database. Yes. Fastly, yes, we like this. This is a pretty decent gap down too. Definitely pick your favorite. I really like this volume increase and bulls being trapped, so we'll add FSLY. Again, it's a lot of tickers. I don't really like trading with a lot of things on my list, but good gaps. So we gotta trade these things. FSLY and Mongo database. Let's look at that one. MDB. Yep. Decent gap down. This, in my opinion, is buyable though. Like, I would buy the dip. So I don't know. It's a retest gap, not necessarily a gap and go. It's got room to come down to 442. Let's see if there's buyers. I'll add Mongo database for a fade up, actually. So afternoon play is what I'm going to look at on Mongo. A lot like Apple and Tesla, I think. Cindy says Tesla, honestly, could be a fade. And finish as an inverted head and shoulders. Yes, on the daily, absolutely. It is at support. We can't lie. So Cindy's saying that Tesla eventually could just do something like this and then continue higher. Yeah, possibility, absolutely. Yeah, I don't really love this gap down as much as I like some of the other tickers. So let's look at, all right, the markets are open. Let's look at some of our favorite things. Airbnb, we just got to short it right at open. YouTube land, it is very, very, very fun to hang out with you guys. If you want to come check out our rooms, go to reallifetrading.com and sign up. Definitely give us a like and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already done so. I will see you guys next